For watching live or listening back to this show from Teachers Talk Radio. You can catch up with all our shows by visiting our YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Outstanding, a world-class vision, a world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Good morning. Welcome to Points of View on Teachers Talk Radio. This morning we have myself, Ray, Tom, and Liz, and we are going to discuss some stories that have broken this week in the world of education. So up first, we've got a story from The Independent that says 3/4 of parents let children miss school for, in quotation marks, duvet day. Now, a survey shows changing attitudes towards school attendance among parents. And it's interesting how this is phrased, because it says 3/4 of parents have allowed their children to stay home if they don't want to attend school. Now, further on in the article, we have a bit of a breakdown about, reasons why they might not want to. We've got mental health reasons. We've also got comments that parents have taken out their children out of school for family visits, day trips, sports events, etc. But I think it's this idea of well-being or mental health style duvet days that the article is focusing on and kind of intending to criticize without saying so. The statement that it's changing attitudes among parents, changing attitudes towards school, though, is what I find particularly interesting. I was saying beforehand that this isn't new. This is not new. This is maybe the extent of it is new. But parents, there's always been parents who've taken their students out or let them stay home, or like my best friend in primary school, her parents had a rule that she was allowed a mental health day every term. But I think the difference maybe that the article is picking up on, and that people are commenting on a lot on socials, is just the amount of it, I suppose. Like my friend's parents had a rule, and this was in the 90s, that it was once per term. So you better use that very, very wisely. Like, are you really genuinely not coping? Is this all a bit too much? Are you just like physically, mentally exhausted? You're not sick, but you're not well. Do you really want to use that day today? And it was encouraged to make a very, very wise choice. It was never, my little snowflake doesn't want to go to school, so she's going to stay home. It was never that kind of attitude. So it was always very calculated, I suppose. Like she and her brother had to make sensible choices about it. And if they wasted that day, then they were going in for the rest of that term. So, parents have always, some parents have always done this. But maybe I guess they're possibly just doing it too much and people are starting to push back. Have you guys noticed similar trends in your own schools and your own experiences?
Absolutely. I think I really sit on the fence with this debate, because I can see arguments on both sides of it. But we said before the show about it becoming a slippery slope, and I think that's the problem. I think your friend's parents had a really good hold on it, and I think that was a very sensible approach to it, because we all sometimes do need to not be workaholics. We do need to understand when we've got to slow down. We've got to recognize when we've reached a point where we've hit a wall. It's how tall that wall is, perhaps, because there are some things that you can just get. It's like, okay, you just got pushed through a little bit. It's a blip. In you go, sort yourself out, pull yourself together, it'll be fine. And there's, I cannot do this today. And those are two very different things, but I think it's they just don't want to go in. I think there are a lot of students that just don't want to go in. And looking at the comment sections about this story, there have been a lot of parents saying, well, you need to make school a more appealing place to be, don't you? And it's like, oh God, we're doing our best. It's that, yes, okay, the system is broken. Yes, we are expecting big things. It's quite rigorous. I get that. It's quite hard, but so is work. So is the world. So is life. I don't think there are very many people who have really, really easy jobs that just kind of coast through. Most of us fall into the category where if we're going to work, we're going to have to work hard. And sometimes we're going to have to go in when we don't want to. And are we helping them if we're just allowing them to cave in whenever they feel like it?
No, we're not. And I feel like that's I feel like this story ties into a wider problem of parents, not to just complain about parents, but to complain about parents. Parents not preparing their children for the reality of life. Like if, oh, my child's got this, they've got this, they can't do that, and they wrap them in cotton wool and they prevent them from experiencing anything, even in a safe, low stakes setting. They prevent them from being able to push through and being able to develop coping strategies by just avoiding the problem. If, oh, my child doesn't like school right now, so rather than actually trying to sort something out or deal with it, we just keep them off school, because apparently a 13-year-old knows what's best for them at all times. Okay. We have all these parents that just don't want to be bothered, I suppose, or maybe maybe I'm being mean. They probably don't know how. They don't have the skills to teach their children resilience and teach them coping strategies and teach them how to push through when things are hard without getting to breaking point. Because that's actually, I mean, every adult I know pretty much still struggles with that, which is why we also sometimes take days off work. It is something that is very, very difficult to do, but you have to teach or try to teach your children to develop those skills, or they are not going to function as adults. Their lives are going to be unnecessarily difficult. You should want your child to be able to cope with the seemingly insurmountable, but actually not, crap that life will throw at them. You have to teach your children how to deal with that. And if you're just keeping them home from school because little Johnny doesn't want to go, you're not teaching them jack. You are setting them up to fail. And keeping them off is part of so many other trends that we see. They're connected. Like I saw something on social this morning, and I was scrolling and I was commenting. I can't even remember what it was, but something, somebody posted something about how schools essentially make problems worse. Like parents in schools make problems worse. For example, anxiety around like exams or something. So if we're just removing the source of the anxiety without actually teaching children how to cope with their anxiety or how to manage it, if we're just removing that problem, they're going to have that anxiety for the rest of their lives every time that thing comes up, because all they've been taught is to
let's
avoid
just
it.
take away the problem.
Let's just take away the problem. Someone's going to take away the problem for you, and then you'll be able to deal with it. That's not reality. Like I honestly don't understand. Sorry for ranting about parents, but not sorry at all. I'm so annoyed. I don't understand what these people think is going to happen to their children when they are no longer coddled by their parents at home.
I think that is, and obviously I've got two hats on. I've got my parent hat on as well as like my teacher hat on. So I come at this from two angles. My child is small. I have yet to encounter very many problems and the teenage problems that will come with that. But I really do. I worry about my son and making sure that I really want him to be resilient. I want him to pick himself up, dust himself off and do things. I don't want to coddle him. Of course, I love him to the end of forever and I would do anything to protect him. I jump in front of a train for him, but I want him to function in the world when I'm not around and I can't do things for him. And what I look at what I'm seeing all the time and I'm like, yes, you're your child's defender. Yes, you are, your child's biggest advocate. Of course you are. And no one would expect you to be anything else. But are you really advocating for them if you are not preparing them to deal with real life struggles? Because we hear such like the closed mindset, don't we, constantly of, I can't do that because. And it's like, no, it's not, you can't do that because. Don't say that. You're going to find it harder because, yes, absolutely true. Don't disagree with that at all. So here are some strategies to deal with that, cope with that, overcome that, whatever. But don't just immediately go, oh, I can't do that because. But I literally hear parents use that phrasing and say they can't do that because. And I always say, I don't agree. They can do it. They are just going to find it harder. And we're not helping. And I don't know how we've got to this place. It seems to have massively snowballed.
Mm-hmm.
As well.
Well, in this report that was done by one of our partners on the show today, the Bet Show, they said parents increasingly prioritize their children's emotional well-being and are willing to allow absence when they believe it serves their child's best interests. This shift challenges traditional assumptions about the non-negotiable nature of school attendance. The path forward requires acknowledging these changing attitudes whilst helping families understand the long-term consequences of missing education. There is this shift, isn't there, away from the non-negotiable school being non-negotiable into something that is negotiable for children, families, and society in general. Now,
and COVID accelerated that, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but I want to throw a devil's advocate in and say, homeschooling has become very prominent.
Yeah.
And more accepted. I think maybe it's always been accepted, but only a small proportion of people have done it, right? I think more and more are doing it. What's your view on that? On the growth in homeschooling?
So
Ray.
go Ray.
I'll just laugh at Ray's face. You say so much, Ray, without saying anything.
Do you know what? Do you know what a student told me once? She was like, "Miss, your face needs Jesus." I was like, "Okay, thanks." Oh, my face will get right on that.
I've got a colleague where we say your face doesn't need subtitles.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, homeschool. Okay, I'm trying to contain it.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of feelings, kind of personal and otherwise, family related otherwise, about homeschooling and the failures and the dangers. But also, to be completely honest, a lot of my concern about homeschooling comes from the things that pop up on my feed from America, because in the US, it's a whole nother level of crazy. It's a whole other level. And you have parents who are like essentially trying to shield their child from any kind of, like, you think of off grid and then times it by 1,000. And you have like the danger that these children are in because their parents are shielding them from any and every mandatory reporter out there. The danger, the safeguarding danger that these children are in is unreal. In the UK, we have a slightly different situation where it's not as easy or as accepted to keep your child from the rest of the world so that you can brainwash or abuse them. So it's a lot harder for parents to do that. So they tend not to quite as much. So I don't think we have the depth of homeschooling problems that other places probably do. But I look at so many parents that are failing at their main job. And then I look at parents who are wholly responsible for their children's education. And I look at parents who do wrap their kids in cotton wool. And quite often these groups overlap. And then in the center of that Venn diagram, you have the crazy homeschoolers. And I'm so worried for those children. I'm so worried. I mean, not all homeschool, some use online schools. Some are very good at, meetup groups and community groups. And there's a way to do homeschooling right. And there's a way to do it that supports a child's social development, a way that keeps them safe, and a way that allows them to learn at their own pace. There's a way to do it correctly. But the trust that I have in the average parent to pull that off is nil.
And I think a lot of the time, the stories that you're seeing in the media about, I've pulled my child out of school to do this, that, and the other, and you're like, oh my gosh, look at your grammar. in these messages already. Like I worry so significantly about what education your child, or if your child is getting an education at all, and all you've done is you've taken umbrage with the school uniform rule or whatever.
Yeah.
You've effectively like flicked your hair, flounced out, slammed the door behind you, and gone, well, you're not going to have my child. And that's it. That's what it boils down to. It doesn't boil down to any kind of need necessarily for some parents. And like you say, I think home education falls into two very, very distinct camps. I think there's the people who are genuinely acting in the best interest of their children, who are doing these home education meetup groups. They're doing online school. They are actively taking charge of their children's education and very much helping them in a way that does support their learning. And then you've got the ones who are saying they're home educating, but they're actually not. School of life type attitude that isn't really school of life. It's just, you're not going to school because I ate them.
Yeah, and I've seen it happen. I've seen parents take their kids out, and then their friends would be like, oh, Sally's just playing on this game, or she's on TikTok at whatever o'clock, or she's doing that. Like, I know. And I've seen students who have been homeschooled then enter mainstream education later. And sometimes they're okay because their parents have done it properly. And sometimes it's an adjustment. Of course, it's a rough adjustment. How can it not be a rough adjustment? But they're okay as people, as students in education, managing socially. They're okay. But the majority of them are not. And I have seen students who have been home educated who cannot write a sentence at the age of 13, who have, by admission of their own families who have supposedly been educating them, been sitting around playing Minecraft all day. They have not been educated. They've been at home, but they haven't been educated at all. So when you have parents, again, coming back to the article, the original story, do I trust parents, the vast majority of parents, to make responsible, sensible, beneficial decisions about when their child should or should not go into school? Not based on my experiences. It's a problematic slippery slope, and
Also in the article, in the report itself, again from Bet Show, obviously they're concerned with technology. They said, however, the fundamental solution lies in creating educational environments where children genuinely want to be. Now, my sort of prompt here would be, I struggle, apart from like a youth club sort of setup, where it's come in, play games with your mates, we'll have chats about stuff while you're playing games, right? Barring a setup like that, I'm really struggling to get to a point where a kid is still not going to go, oh, bloody hell, school again today. I'm really struggling. I've got to go to a physical building. Yeah. No, I mean, you've still got to go to a physical building. You've got to spend time with other people. You've got to interact with teachers who you might not like. You've got to,
because that's life, isn't it?
Well, but this is where it's flipping back, though, to that earlier statement of this idea of the non-negotiable nature of school. We say that's life, right? Okay. So I guess society has changed and evolved as well, because, if you think 50, 60 years ago, if you didn't get through school properly, with some sort of minimum, then literally you would be, in real danger of sort of not being able to exist as a human being, right? I'm not, and people will come on here and they'll disagree with me on this, and that's absolutely fine. But in Western societies, I'm unsure if we're at that point anymore. I think that the sort of way that society has progressed, in inverted commas, from a practical, societal sort of wealth point of view, means that I'm not sure those sort of, if you like, the deterrent of, if I don't do this, this is going to happen, right? And I think there's more opportunities now for adults to make money in a whole range of ways that didn't exist before. You know, you think back like, I don't know, 70 years, it was like factory, mines, cleaning, you know, whatever. You could probably list, I don't know, 10 clerical work, maybe if you're lucky, right? Whereas now there's just this huge growth of online jobs and opportunities. So I guess you look out there and you go, oh, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. And, you know, there is the
You've
more of
got to
that
be
thing of...
motivated, though.
Exactly.
You've got to
It
have
doesn't
that drive.
matter. It doesn't matter what the job is. You still have to get your ass out of bed. You still have to hustle. You still have to go places and do things when you'd rather curl up with your duvet and your dog. It doesn't actually matter what the job is. And this is what I think a lot of these parents are missing. It's not that, oh, the world has changed. It's not, oh, there's a different set of jobs out there. You still have to get up and do those jobs. And so much of school is training, educating, yes, learning social skills and conflict resolution, yes, learning about history and quadratic equations, yes, but it's about developing good habits that will help you make money and be successful and function as an adult in the world once you leave. And if you are not encouraging, as far as possible, your child to get out of bed, get dressed, and go, they are going to find it extremely difficult to long-term stay in any job, even if they enjoy it. Even if it's something they enjoy way more than they ever enjoyed school, they won't have that like physical, mental, emotional resilience of pushing through a difficult time. For God's sake, they're only going to get how many holidays a year as an adult? They're not going to have all these half terms and all these summers. Work life is harder. And you have to, like, we're not asking the impossible. It's a couple weeks at a time and then you get a break. Teachers get well, we're marking the whole time, but that's beside the point. Most jobs, you don't have that many holidays. So actually, this is not prison. This is not factory work. Put your uniform on and go so you can be a functioning adult. I'm so tired of all the excuses and all the reasons why school is destroying people and they all need to stay home. Like, what are you going to do when you're 35? Nothing, because your mom didn't train you when you were 15.
And
the end.
You've got to get up. You've got to earn money. You've got to, you know, if even, I think we're living in a generation, aren't we, where they see all these influencers who, you know, are making millions out of, you know, their makeup tutorials or, you know, unboxing or whatever it is, and they're like, oh, I can do that. It's fine. But those people who've done that, they haven't just fallen into being viral. You know, you've got to promote, you've got to make the stuff, you've got to have the ideas, you've got to do that. People who are setting up shops on Etsy and who are selling things, whether that's, you know, digital things that they've made on Canva or physical talents that they have, you've still got to get up and do those things. And if they don't have the work ethic, because that's what this boils down to, it's teaching that work ethic, isn't it? And it's, you know, and we can all be lazy. Like, I'm not being a hypocrite. You know, I have some days where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just can't do this today. I don't want to. But you push through because you have to. I've got to go to work because I need to get paid. I've got bills to pay. I need to keep a roof over my head. I've got a child to get to school and keep alive. I can't keep plants alive, but I need to keep my child alive. You know, you have to have a driver and a motivator. And if the only driver and motivator you have is whether or not you want to play Minecraft, or, you know, if that's all you've got, or scroll TikTok or whatever it is, I think this is where we've just fallen into bad habits. And I think technology does play a really huge part. And I know, like, we blame COVID for so many things, and I'm sick and tired of it coming up in conversation all the time. Oh, that's because of COVID. But I do think the attitude to attendance and opting in to school can directly be linked to COVID, because when we went online and we were teaching online, kids realised they could log on to Teams or Zoom or whatever it was. Their cameras weren't on. They could go off and do something else. It looked like they'd turned up, but they actually hadn't. And they were like, oh, and nothing really bad's happened to me. Look at that. Great.
Sure.
And so
until they get their GCSE results, and then they realize
it's easier. And it's easier. And it's better.
And it's easier. And I think what happened was, as well, when we came back after COVID, what I really noticed is the number of wanderers at school increased. We maybe had one or two in the whole school who wandered pre-COVID. And then after COVID, we had a bunch of like 15, 16 kids that regularly weren't coming to lessons. And because they were like, okay, well, we've turned up, but we don't actually have to turn up. Like, we can just wander. We're in school. We've got our registration mark, but now we're here. We can just wander. And it was the before after COVID effect, 100%. And then obviously, even though a lot of these kids weren't as memorably affected by COVID now, because we've come so far past it, the habits are already there, and they're seeing other kids that are wandering around, not coming, or they've got friends who don't come to school, and then it's, well, so-and-so's mum doesn't make them go in. Why are you making me go in? And then it just kind of permeates through. And if you aren't firm as a parent, and you're not going, and you're not willing to have that battle, which I get tired. There are some things I don't have battles over. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I do pick my battles, but I pick my battles over the really important things as well. And because I'm like, no, we are going to battle about this. I am going to put my foot down about this, because that's not happening.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Liz. There's a friend of ours here where I live, and she has I think her son is maybe 10, 11, and this is sort of slightly off piste, but it's the same topic of sort of saying no, is she basically doesn't allow her kids to access iPad at all outside of school. She's the only parent in the class who does that, right? So all the other parents have some sort of rule where they're allowed, an hour or 2 hours or even the whole time, right? And they're allowed to play games and all the rest of it, right? And she's like, no, I'm not having it, I'm not doing it. And her kids are lovely, by the way, which may not be linked to that. It may just be that they're fantastic children, right? But the
there
point
is
this
possibly
is
a correlation.
Well, the point I was going to make is a couple of the parents have now gone, if she can do it, we can do it.
Yeah.
So they've actually started to go to the school and be a bit like, I'm not sure about this, because they're big on sort of the iPads and the technology and all the rest of it in the classroom and everything else. They've sort of started to maybe push back a little bit, because they've seen one parent who's sort of willing to go, no, I'm just not. And her children are like, oh, but so-and-so, no, I'm just not, absolutely sort of, I'm standing by what I believe in and I'm doing it. But she's the only one to do it.
You need that's what why the smartphone free childhood movement has become so popular. Definitely. Is because ultimately we've had several years where we've got kids in year 5 who have got smartphones, who are in WhatsApp groups with their peers, and it's just got out of hand because parents don't want their child to be the only one in the class who doesn't have a smartphone. So they're pulled into this thing that against their principles that they didn't want. And I was worried about that. And so obviously this smartphone free childhood movement, the parent pact has come around, and people signing this pact and now you've got a little bit of reassurance that when the time comes around for us with younger children, there's going to be 90% of us who are saying, no, you're not having one. And we've got the strength in numbers where you have that power. But it can go the other way, obviously. But it's good that this kind of one influence, if it can feed positively the other way, that's kind of what we need. But all of these things, I think, as well, boil down to media rhetoric as well. And we talk about it all the time, but the hatred of schools in the media, schools are draconian, schools are this, schools are that. And it's that idea that that's how everybody perceives school. So it's like, well, no wonder my child doesn't want to go into school, because they're not allowed to go to the toilet ever. The toilets are locked from 9 till 3 every single day. Their human rights are being, they can't fill their water bottles ever. They're given 1 teaspoon of water when they first come in, and they can't drink for the rest of the day. And this, they're put in isolation because they've got, an earring that's slightly too big, or whatever. This absolute monster vision of schools that ends up on the front page of some newspapers, which
there's also
isn't
no
true.
I don't disagree with any of that. The other thing is as well, there's that element of, for you to do something now, you should enjoy it. Right? So it's like, if you experience any level of discomfort in a task, it cannot be a good task for you to do. Right, there's that
I
sort of
really think
attitude,
that.
isn't there,
That's
permeating,
wild.
particularly for children. Oh,
Yeah.
but they're children; they're not adults. So therefore, you don't that argument of, well, yeah, but they're going to be adults. So what are they going to learn now, right, in the now? But there is that element of, sort of, they're children, we're adults, so children need this, and that whole element of, we need to feel like we like this. School being a great example, lessons we need to like it all. If there's a level of discomfort in a particular lesson, then we need to opt out of that, or we need the option to opt out. Now, that's the extreme version, but I think that extreme version is becoming less and less. I genuinely think that it's becoming like, because even in that report, it says, addressing not just the symptoms of poor attendance, but the underlying reasons why pupils and families choose it over presence. Now, of course, there's going to be a range of those, but I genuinely think one of those reasons is you just don't like it. And, because we don't like it, that's actually become a valid reason to not do it, because we don't feel good in it.
And that's what a lot of the comments are saying. They don't want to go to school because you're not making it exciting enough for them. If you made lessons more enjoyable, they would want to come. It's like, what do you want me to do? Dress as a clown, stand on my head and talk about Shakespeare?
Yeah, they do. They do. And Liz, I'm so enraged by all of your dumb parent impressions, because it's really hitting a nerve that we need to pause to hear from our sponsors. So this show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetteLearning.com to explore the full range of titles. We also have The Bet Show. So join Bet for the biggest week in education from the 21st to the 23rd of January 2026 in Excel in London. With immersive workshops, thought-provoking speakers, hundreds of hours of CPD-accredited content, cutting-edge technology, and unrivaled networking, there's no opportunity quite like it for educators. And you can get your free ticket today by visiting uk.betshow.com. And that's bet with 2 T's. And finally, Teachers Talk Connect is back. So our annual CPD and networking extravaganza returns. Join the TTR team on Saturday, the 14th of March in Manchester. Tickets are free. So what are you waiting for? Head to TT Radio. I get that wrong every time. ttradio.org/connect 2026. And you can join us at the Teachers Talk Connect event in Manchester in March.
Brilliant. And also big thanks to everybody listening and watching along. We've had 250 so far on all platforms. So thanks very much for joining in. And a few comments on X. Lee has said the world has changed so much. My mum worked full time, so my sister and I were made to go to school because both parents worked. I got sent in with glandular fever. Obviously, she thought I was laying it on and it was a sore throat. Johnny has replied, our response to COVID was shameful, particularly in relation to children who we knew from the outset were at no real risk from the virus. We reap what we sow. We've had a few other comments on LinkedIn. Just a shout out to Ruth, who just said, great point, Liz. We don't want to hear that, Ruth. Just keep your thoughts to yourself. All right. And we've also had an anonymous user joining in from Malaysia. Thank you very much to them. And Deb's made a comment on YouTube earlier. She said, you should also worry about literacy levels among teaching and support staff. Debs, there's no reason to have a go at me. It's a Sunday morning. Give me a bit of serenity. All right. Give me a bit of serenity. Okay. I like to preach, but, don't ask for the proof in the pudding. Okay. But on a serious note, I do think I pretty much agree with everything you were both saying. And I think most teachers probably would. But I'm not sure what the solution is.
There isn't
because
one, though, is there?
If you made school a youth club, there would still be people complaining about not liking it and not wanting to go in because it doesn't suit what they want. There'd be less.
You'd have the opposite end of the scale, wouldn't you? You would have this isn't challenging enough for my child.
Right.
This is not, they're not being pushed. You don't have high standards. Ultimately, it's like the homework debate, isn't it? Even though about one teacher, some parents are complaining you're not setting enough, some parents are complaining that you're setting too much. you can't please everybody all of the time. And to a certain extent, that's life. Keep using that phrase. That's just the way that it is. You can't please everybody all of the time. People are going to be dissatisfied. But ultimately, we live in such particularly in education, everybody's so vocal about their problems. You can't just sit on your opinion. Like, sometimes you can be unhappy about something and you can just quietly stew about it, and it's annoying, but it is just the way that it is, and you've got to accept it. But everyone seems to vocalize it now. Like, the second, like you said, Tom, about the second there's a little bit of discomfort, it's like, I have to make a complaint about that. And it's
I think that comes back down to, sorry, Tom, I think that comes back to everybody thinking everyone thinking they have a right to an opinion, I can't even speak, about education because they went to a school once. I think that's what that comes down to. I think that's why everyone's so vocal, because they all have some experience in this education thing. They think that their opinion is valid and worth listening to. But some opinions aren't. Some opinions are just wrong, and some opinions shouldn't be heard. So there we are.
I don't disagree with that. But again, this idea of the underlying symptoms, I think one thing that I will sort of say, okay, let's throw this out there, curriculum reform. One of the things that I think, one of the arguments is that the system we have is outdated. It doesn't, cater for, the sort of wants and needs of a lot of students. It's very much still tilted very much on the academic. I know changes have happened with the EBAC and stuff like that, but do you think that more, much more prominent, because people talk about vocational pathways, right? But do you think that a more radical curriculum reform around sort of more, like, for example, very popular in my school right now is enterprise, which is the word for business studies, right? But enterprise. So a lot of students pick that, right? So like this idea of how to set up a business, how to be a sole trader, how to manage your money, how to come up with ideas, how to brand it, how to all that stuff, right? I didn't do any of that at school. Don't know about you guys. I didn't have the opportunity to really do any of that at all. Okay. Now, to be fair, yes, as we've already said, the world's changed, but I wonder if our curriculum is lagging behind.
I do agree with that.
The way in which the world of work has changed and is, because I don't like that phrase of how it will be in 50 years, because nobody knows what it will be like in 50 years.
And we can't play that game.
But I'm talking about the right now. I'm talking about how the world of work is right now. I'm talking about the opportunities and what is on offer. Now, that's not to say, of course, that they are not still going to need the basic skills, and we're still going to have the problems of, I hate the English with Miss Whitehouse, because she's always, making highly amusing but very sarcastic comments about my lack of work.
That's all English teachers.
In lessons, and I just can't be bothered. Her face needs saving by. But there may be lots of comments along those lines. But so there's never going to be a full-on solution. But I do think that this sort of emphasis on, I hate to say it because I teach it and I love it, but there's the history. I'm not saying get rid of history, by the way. I think history is a hugely important subject. I think it's brilliant. I think loads of kids pick it because it's fantastic. But my point is, this is right. We need more vocational routes, even going down to Key Stage 3. I just think we need more plumbing, electricians, building. I don't know, there's all sorts of things there. There's such a need there, and there's such a vast gap. If people want to, earn a lot of money as well, then, these are the sort of skills and programs that I think we need more of. And then on the digital side, marketing, entrepreneurship, digital literacy, yes, there's subjects in school that cater for that. I get it. But I'm talking about something maybe a little bit more focused towards, being an entrepreneur and going down that route.
we don't really do that until they turn 16. We're not
This is
like
what I mean.
the post
What I'm
16
saying.
curriculum is where it's really broadened. Like when I did my A levels, the post 16 curriculum was very, very narrow, but now it's unbelievable. Even sort of 10 years ago, I went to a college near me with my tutor group to go and see what was on offer, and blew my mind the courses that they could do then. And that's just gone even further now. And you just think, if we were doing that further down, and I kind of mentioned this at the end of our show last week, and Lucy said I'd opened a can of worms, and she was right. It's we're pushing square pegs into round holes a lot of the time, and we would up engagement, I think, with students. We wouldn't lose students the way that we do if we were starting that vocational pathway or those options earlier on in school. So we could do functional skills for English and maths. We could, rather than try and push them through this academic rigor, it is to be found. And some students that you see who have absolutely kicked off in school, who have disrupted every lesson, who have, when they're found an alternative pathway, which they then they're turning up every day, they're not swearing at everybody, because they found their niche. Like, that's what they want to do. They feel
although that can work on the flip side, because I once spoke to a few teachers who were teaching sort of, I guess, what would you call it? They were working in I guess they weren't just working on cars, but it was a workshop environment, right? It was a workshop environment, and they were like, "Yeah, we let the kids swear because that's what people in those environments do," because they were people from those industries, right? And those places, like, we let them do that. And I was a bit like, but it can work both ways in terms of, you still got to have, those high standards,
some boundaries.
You still got to have some boundaries and stuff like that, of course. But equally, I think I mean, when I was in school, and I regret this, there wasn't really an option for me to do anything outside of the academic, like drama, for example, wasn't there.
Wasn't it?
No, there was none of that. So that, I just think it was quite limiting. Now, obviously, things have moved on from there, of course, but I just think, does it need to go further than that?
And we almost need to, until we're so reactive in education, aren't we? We're not proactive with things, and that really drives me mad. We have to get to breaking point before we offer these things. And so, like, with the students who are offered these alternative curriculums, they have to have, been suspended however many times. They have to have been before they get offered it. And actually, if we had something in place where we had that early intervention, where we recognized this is what this student needs, they don't then have to have that negative view of education. They don't have to get to that point where they think, this isn't for me, I hate it, I hate everyone here, I hate that person, and I'm going to tell them. We can win them before we get to that point. But and obviously, as it always does, boils down to funding. It's not there, but ultimately, early intervention, as with everything, with your health, with everything, early intervention is the thing that can ward off problems.
You also need enough teachers, obviously.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
If you're going to diversify the curriculum, I think it's a great idea to have all these big discussions about curriculum that we've had in the last few weeks. Oh, let's have a huge curriculum review that takes a year. While we've had that year, another 50,000 teachers have walked out the door. While we've been talking about, what to do with the curriculum, we've lost another however many thousand teachers going. So my point is,
go on.
Sorry. Go on, Ray. No, go on.
I was just going to say, individual schools. This all sounds great. No one can do it because it's not an individual school decision. We don't have the resources, the rooms, the money, the funding, the staff, the anything to be able to make those kinds of changes. It has to come from on high. So this is wonderful. But once again, it's not the individual school, let alone the individual teacher or subject's problem or fault that something is not engaging enough. Lobby the government to provide the funding so your child can do something that interests them and stop harassing the schools, and maybe try and teach your kid to fight through something that is a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit boring.
This is my point, though. Fundamentally, even if you diversify the curriculum in the way that we're saying, even if you make it radical changes along the lines of what we've said, which isn't going to happen, but let's imagine it did, they'd still have to go to lessons that they dislike for the whole of their education. That is never going to change. If you're going to have people who are literate, right, then they have to attend certain lessons. If you're going to have somebody with, who has the most basic of knowledge, so that sort of fake news and conspiracy theories aren't their regular diet of sort of anything to do with anything, right? Which I think is already happening to a certain extent. Yeah. I mean, but as I said, if you're going to have, sort of the world is round, sort of things that are fundamental facts that people just need to know, right? Then they are going to have to attend lessons that they don't want to attend.
Yep.
I don't want to clean my bathroom. It needs to be clean. So it's got to be done. I don't enjoy it, but it's got to be done.
But this is the thing. It's not even about, we keep talking about how work is horrible and you have to get up and go and do a job to get money. Like, yes, okay, fine. But there's also more to life than that. Like, I've had to do horrible, awful, no good, very bad things that I did not want to do, that were in my best interest or my family's best interest, because they needed to get done and I'm an adult. And doing things that you don't want to do that benefit you or your family in the long run is called being responsible, and grown. And it's not like, we do have some, because sometimes you hear these people go, oh, well, if you don't like your job, you can quit. Kids can't quit school. Well, apparently they can, actually. Parents just keep them home. But there's an element of truth in that, right? Like, you can choose, to a certain extent, to a large extent, you can choose your career, you can choose your job, you can quit a job you don't want to, you can, like, there's more freedom that kids don't.
Enough, somebody has just commented on X around something slightly different, but they've just commented, school staff are also reporting huge levels of stress, anxiety, and burnout. Are they not resilient enough? At least they can walk away and are in their thousands.
That's true.
But the children can't.
But here's the thing, right? We're stressed, and I'm stressed, and I've got too much to do. I don't have enough physical time in my life to do it. I should be marking exams right now because I chose a horrible subject to teach. But I'm going into work next week. I'm still getting up and I'm still going. And guess what? Saying I'm stressed, or this is making me miserable, or I don't like this job because it's untenable, and still going into work, that is resilience. That is exactly what resilience is. So teachers complaining that they're stressed does not mean they are not resilient. They are still going into work and they're still doing the job. That is the literal definition of resilience. Back off.
The teachers who are still in the profession, who are teaching their subject specialism, who are in front of your children day in, day out, there is an almost 90% guarantee that they are absolutely, particularly by this point in the term, physically and mentally exhausted, stretched to the end of their capacity, and do not want to be there. But they are coming in, they've got a smile on their face, they're putting all their energy they can into teaching your child, and don't have a go at them, please. Thank you. We're trying.
I mean, the other element of this, again, to throw devil's advocate in here a little bit, just because we're coming towards the end, is, how stressful, anxiety-inducing and burnout-inducing is going to school for a child now, do you think?
Depends on the school, depends on the child, depends on the class, depends on the... I've worked in schools that are very, like, it feels... I hate using this because it's so abused by powerful people, but it felt like a family. It felt like do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like a real community place. And I've also worked in schools that are just machines and kids are numbers, and if it didn't contribute to exam results, no one cared. Genuinely, no one cared. So I think it depends. And you know what? Some kids thrived in that mechanical, like, military environment. Like, there's a certain type of student that does really well in that environment. and there's a certain type of student that does really well in the other one. And the schools, talking about schools as a monolith is ridiculous, because every environment is unique and so completely different to everything else.
And
so I
within
think
those environments, you have different people as well who cope with things differently, and you cannot cater for. It's not a one size fits all approach. I think in education, a lot of the time we are forced to take a one size fits all approach, because that's the standards that we're being held to and that the students are being driven towards are a bit one size fits all. But I do believe, for the most part, there are exceptions to the rule, that schools are doing their best. And I see it in my own school. I see people bending over backwards to get students into school. When they're in school, support them, escorting them to lessons, giving them a safe space when they need it. You know, we've got a whole EBSA thing, we've got ELSA, we've got all the acronyms, we've got them all, like being put in place to try and get students into school and support them when they're there. I don't think my school is unique by any stretch of the imagination. I think lots of schools are doing it, but I don't know if everyone's willing to work with us in that way. And I think that is a huge difficulty. We can't cater for everyone all of the time. We're all individuals, but we have to, comes down to that resilience. We have to find a way sometimes to get through things that are difficult. And when we have young people, as adults, whether we're parents, whether we're teachers, whatever, it is our responsibility to help them to gain those skills, to become resilient. And if we're not doing that, as Ray said earlier, we're not really helping them. We are condemning them really into quite a difficult adult life where they can't cope.
Guys, I think that's a wonderful place to end on. So thank you very much, everybody who's engaged with us this morning and joined us for Points of View. We'll be back again next Sunday at 10 a.m. Just a final shout out to our partner on the show today, Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources for teachers around the world. If you want to check them out, visit the Hachette Learning website, grab yourself a CPD book for Christmas.
I've got my tree up, don't judge me.
And oh my God, you will be judged. So
I've got my tree up too.
Oh no.
This is my tree.
Oh.
Excellent, great. Okay. Well, on that note, we'll be back in a week, and we'll see you all soon. Have a good week at work, at school, and we'll be back again in 7 days. See you guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Outstanding, a world-class vision, world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.